Good day. If you want to follow along with me, we will be in again the first chapter of the book of Acts and starting in the 4th verse. And again, I am using the English Standard Version. Again, great translation. Encourage if you don't have a copy, maybe if you see one somewhere, to pick one up. Great translation to read for understanding. I know many don't want to use anything with the King James. That's okay too. But again, that's one of the things I like about this translation is it keeps the beauty of the King James English. For the most part, it is very true in its translation. I don't make any commission on selling Bibles, but just thought I'd throw that in. Beginning in verse 4, it says, "And while staying with them, he ordered them not to depart from Jerusalem, but to wait for the promise of the Father, which he said, 'You heard from me. For John baptized with water, but you will be baptized with the Holy Spirit not many days from now.' So when they had come together, they asked him, 'Lord, will you at this time restore the kingdom to Israel?' He said to them, 'It is not for you to know times or seasons that the Father has fixed by his own authority, but you will receive power when the Holy Spirit has come upon you, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem and in all Judea and Samaria and to the ends of the earth.'" This just is a continuation of the first 3 verses. Ideally, probably, we would have just covered all 8 verses together. But for time and clarity, I think best to take them apart here. But again, this verse 4 really ends the first 3 verses. It's as we look at it, and then another thought picks up. But in verse 4 and 5, he commands them to stay in Jerusalem, not to leave until they had received the Holy Spirit that the Father had promised them, and for them to help them. This was a totally new thought for them. He gives them the comparison. He says, "For John baptized with water, but you'll be baptized with Spirit." And so he compares it to the water baptism of John. He says the John baptized with water, you will be baptized with the Spirit. And the word baptize means immerse, which is where in the Baptist Church we get our practice for baptism of totally immersing someone, not sprinkling or something, some other form, but of total immersion. And again, that it says that Jesus is telling them that the disciples are going to be immersed in the Holy Spirit, and by that they will be empowered then to go out and to be obedient. Then in verse 6, the disciples, being the curious bunch that they are, they come to him and they ask him if he's going to restore the kingdom to Israel. You've been through the death, burial, and resurrection. Is it finally time? We've been, along with many Jews, we've been waiting on a Messiah that would get us free from the Roman oppression, break us free from the Roman government. Jesus responds by telling them, it's not for you to know. It's not for you to be concerned with. The Father himself will determine when that happens. It's his decision. It's his authority in verse 7. However, again, he comes back to this statement. He says, "You will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes upon you, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem and in all Judea and Samaria and to the ends of the earth." There's several lessons, I think, for us to draw from this. First of all, and I'm going to not take them in exact order. First of all, let's look at verse 6. The disciples say, "Is it time?" He says, "You don't worry about time. You just go about doing what I have told you to do when I tell you to do it. You function on my timeline." Then if we back up, how are they to function on God's timeline? With God's power, with the power of the Holy Spirit, the equipping of the Holy Spirit. And then drop down into verses 7 and 8, and we see another important lesson. They're worried about restoring the kingdom restoring Israel, getting free of Roman oppression. What does Jesus tell them matters? Jesus says, what I want you to do is I want you to go preach. I want you to go tell people about me. I want you to go tell people about the kingdom all over the earth. I'll worry about Israel. My Father, He's got Israel in His hands. He'll take care of Israel. You go and preach the word. And so from these few verses, I think we get some marching orders for us even today. First of all, we need to understand what our business is. Obviously, there are some things that are said to us, said to the disciples here, the apostles in these verses, that tell them there's some things that you don't worry about. But here's your task. Our task is preaching to the world, taking the gospel around the world. That is our task. We're not to be worried about a lot of these other things that we spend time on. And we do that. Somebody will say, well, how in the world are we going to take the gospel and do that? We do that by the equipping and the empowering of the Holy Spirit that lives in the believer. And that's three great lessons for us. What we're supposed to be doing, what we're not supposed to be doing, and how we do what we're supposed to do. That we, the one thing, He gives them one assignment: preach the gospel. Go preach to Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, the end of the earth. Be my witnesses. That's what I want you to concern yourself with. Not Israel, not the government, not all these things, but preaching about me. You do that by the empowering of the Holy Spirit. You don't do it on your own. It's not something you can do, but with the equipping of the Spirit. So I'd like to invite you today to join me in praying for the direction of these verses to be lived out in our lives, in our churches, that we would understand what our task is. Everything else is secondary. We sometimes get a lot of the social gospel things in the front seat. And it's good that we feed the hungry. We're told to. It's good that we take care of widows and orphans. We're told to. But our primary task is to proclaim, to tell people, to be His witnesses. When we're handing out that food, when we're helping the widow, when we're giving a drink of cold water to a thirsty man, all of that, we do that and use that as an opportunity to be witnesses of Jesus Christ through the empowering of the Holy Spirit. And so join me in praying that that's the kind of believers we'll be, that we'll be functioning in the power of the Spirit. We will be doing what matters, and what matters is being witnesses of Jesus Christ. You think about that. Pray about that, that will be our testimony. Have a great day. We'll see you here tomorrow morning.